and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today, another installment of pressed foliage and flowers from Houseplants. I know some viewers have been looking forward to seeing more of this series like Christina, so here we go with that. As I mentioned in prior video, just a little more information again on this if this is your first video in this series. The craft of flower pressing began hundreds of years ago in China and Japan. The flowers were actually pressed between sheets of rice paper weighed down with heavy stones. You'll see here I have a brick, so I am using a brick to weigh them down. They were highly valued for their decorative qualities. And in the West, the plants were collected and pressed for scientific as well as ornamental purposes. So botanists created herbaria, collections or libraries of pressed flowers. That was done for research and teaching and also for documentation so that they could, especially with plants that became endangered, they would have pressed foliage and flowers of them. So Emily Dickinson in her teens created her own herbarium, and there's a digitized version of it that you can see in the gallery exhibition of Emily Dickinson's garden, The Poetry of Flowers. So that is very cool to know. And it was a popular pastime in the United States during the 19th century. So it's a beautiful way to preserve memories of things of your plants that you've grown indoors. As mentioned, their foliage and their flowers. As you can see here, there's quite a few here. I was going to show you here as well, and then talk to you a little bit about how you can preserve the color a little bit more. We're going to work on that today as well. So in the here you can see this is a Parlor Palm right here, so that's how pretty that becomes once it dries. And here is Maidenhair Fern. These were dried in a prior video. These have been since dried. There, you'll see all these leaves here. Pink polka dot plant, and this is just the polka dot plant with the green and the white. That one makes a great dried specimen. As you can see, these ones are a little bit darker. This one's lighter. As I mentioned in the other video as well, many flowers lose their color when they're pressed. They do fade, they do become more faded. These are African violet flowers. And here's one here too. And this one right here is actually from this plant here. So you can see it does darken up for sure. This is another African violet that I don't have here right now. But this darker purple here is similar to what this one looks like, and I do have some dried ones of that actually in the press right now that we're going to look at in a minute. So here we have a little bit of a different coloration. As you can see, these are even more faded. These were from an indoor miniature rose. These are arrowhead vine, and as you know, that is a green color, but these turned this taupe color. These are were pink, purpley pink orchid flowers, and you can see the striations of the pinky purple there, and that was the throat. So these were, I had never tried actually drying orchid flowers, and this was a really cool experiment. So these are very, very unusual too. Okay, so and here you go. Here's a difference too in two different flowers. So this is a violet, and this is a violet. And as you can see, this one's a lot more faded than this one. So there is something to keep in mind in terms of preserving the color if that is of concern to you. I kind of like to let them do whatever they end up doing. However, there is something I will do sometimes and especially when I have time, and I'm going to show you that right now. So going to put these guys to the side. Out of the way here. Okay, so got that on something I need to show you in a second. Okay, in here, under this brick here, I do have some flowers and foliage that I recently put in here. Okay, so the thing about the color and not losing their color, as mentioned, many of them do lose their color. Yellow, white, orange, and pale flowers tend to keep their color, but darker ones like the red, the violet, the purple flowers do fade or change to gray or brown. As you saw with that orchid, did pretty much fade, and some of the African violet flowers. So one thing, the reason why plants lose their color when pressed is because bacteria and fungi feed on the plant tissue, causing it to break down as they dry. So most of these microscopic organisms need moisture to thrive. The faster you can dry the plant, the better, because that will help preserve the color. So it is possible to dry in the microwave. I may cover that in the future. I tend to like to do the old school way of pressing. It's kind of like you press it and forget it, and then you go back and look at it. However, that way they can fade a little bit. So one thing you can do is to change them out of the absorbent paper that they're in into drier paper, and that will speed up the drying process. And I'm going to do that today and show you some that are midway dried right now. Okay, so I have this nice big brick here that I use for this. It works perfectly on this press. This is actually a field press. It's basically cardboard, and it's got a pretty contact paper on it. You can also get presses as well. I'll put some links below. Presses are a little more sophisticated, but I find that this works well. So you could actually make your own field press. And these are they call it field press because when people are out in the field, they can put them and begin the drying process before they even get back to wherever they're going. Okay, so now you can see here, we've got it. You can see those wet marks. Those are wet marks. Those are wet marks from the flowers drying. So we're gonna go ahead and peek inside here and see some here, so you can get a good look. And I'll show you what I have in here. Okay, so in here, you can see I've got it looks a little wet there, trying to get a good angle. Okay, so you can see in there, we've got an arrowhead vine that's still drying. There is a zebrina plant there too. And let's see, a peperomia leaf as well. So these have created, it's wet in here. So I'm going to change to a new, I like to use these coffee filters. I'm going to change to a new coffee filter for that one in a second here. And then also we've got in here a bunch of African violets. And these are the ones, these in here, this is this one. So you can see in here, give you a good look here. That is that one. And you can tell by the color there. So what I'm going to try here, and then there's also one that has already dried more. And that was actually this guy here. So you can see it gets more of it. It's gotten a darker color to it. And that one had a lot less. Actually, that one dried quicker because this one is a ruffled, flower over here, and this one is a flat flower. You can see that. So that's even something else to consider. The fluffier the flower, the more rough, if it's ruffled, that sort of thing, the thicker it is, the more moisture it's going to have, the longer it's going to take to dry, and the trickier it is kind of to press it down as well. Okay, so another here we've got is in here. This isn't too bad. Okay, I've got more. You can see more of the polka dot plant there. And then on this side, oh yes, the China doll. So I'm doing some China doll drying here. Now, this grouping isn't too wet. This one's fine. It's not, I'm just going to put this back in as is. However, the other ones I am going to change right now. So I'm going to work on doing that. Also, the blotting paper itself. You can see this is wet. So I am going to go ahead and change this out as well. Here is some new, and it's good to have it on both sides. I'm not sure what happened to the other side there, but I'm going to put it on both sides. I ran out of that purple, so I'm going to use this and to put on both sides and soaks up the moisture. What you can use, these are heavyweight sheets. This is what I've been using for this here. And this is 12 by 9 inch, so and it's heavyweight sheet. So it doesn't really matter the size you use except to fit in your press. You could cut what you need, but what you want to look for is heavyweight sheets. These are art rather than just the traditional paper like that. So, okay, now I am going to go ahead here. And what you want to use, if as much as possible, you want to use, you can handle them, and a lot of times I end up handling, to be perfectly honest, but you can also use tweezers. So tweezers are also very good to use. Now, this one isn't too bad either. We've only got 2 little leaves in here. I think because I had put this one together with the China doll. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that again. So basically, so you can check on them, see how they're doing like we just did. And then we're going to transfer these other ones that were more moist. Now, this one here you'll see is kind of stuck. Now, sometimes what I'll do, as mentioned, they are very fragile. I mentioned in my other video as well. So what you want to do is you want to, and something that's dry, like this is a wooden skewer, something to kind of nudgel them out without damaging them. It's the tweezers, as mentioned too. I'm working on, this one is kind of stuck because of the moisture. So if I pull too hard, I'm going to lose it. It's going to fall apart. Now, the other one, I did manage to get loose. But this one and the one that had dried already are pretty stuck on here, and they're not quite dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and keep them in here and just know that they're not going to be as colorful as the others. Now these two here, I'm going to go ahead and put in a new one. So you can see it's in a new one, and it's also drier. Put that down here and see what else is going on here. Okay, we have all these guys, all these leaves, the leaf ones. Since these are very thick leaves, they're going to take a while. And then I've got that one, and I've got the Zebrina, as mentioned, here. Got a little baby Zebrina leaf there that's kind of squished. All right, so this is pretty wet, and not you. And that's also you see the coloring on here is also the fungus that I was talking about breaking down in there too. So I'm going to get them out of that one. I've got this one that's ready to go. So I have some room in this one. So we're going to go ahead and distribute these thicker leaves. So it's better to keep better to keep these. You can see how this one's on top of that one, right? So see that? I'm going to gently pull it apart, which I did. Sometimes if you can't, if it just gets stuck. Oh, this is Sabrina, and now I'm seeing, now that I've unstuck this is Tradescantia. So that is another cool one. It's got a pink and green striations on it. Variegation. So I'm going to put these guys. So sometimes I'll just end up using my hands to do this because working with the tweezers can get a little tedious. And I mean, you just have to be very careful, make sure your hands are dry, that sort of thing. This little leaf here, this is actually Tradescantia leaf. It's a hard one to say, Tradescantia. I have a video coming out on those too, a couple videos. Okay, so there you can see here, got those in there. So pretty well spaced out. I am going to see, because I would rather keep this arrowhead leaf, since it's a lot thinner, it has a lot less moisture, away from those fatter leaves with the more moisture. So I'm going to check out what I got here. In here, yes, I do have those, the two African violets that are stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this guy in with them. It fits nicely, as you can see here. So that goes in there. We've got the African violets that we're hoping to get the coloration, to save coloration on in here. In here we have those, the China doll and the other. So you want to spread it out too. So you don't really, what you don't want to do is have them on top of each other. So spread out as much as possible. So if you are doing a lot, you might want to have a couple of these or even a bigger board. You can see where that kind of came out there. So I will put the two together like that. And then that will cover them, because you're trying to absorb, you're working on absorbing the moisture, as mentioned. So whatever you can do to ensure that's going to occur. So if you have to, sometimes it may mean moving things around a little bit. There's no upside down really for this, really. So there. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to go ahead. Oh goodness. Okay, that's probably what happened before. I forgot to put this underneath. So I'm going to have to go ahead and slide it underneath. And rearrange them once again. Okay. All right, so there we go with that. Pretty good here. Trying to get it organized like I had it perfect before. So don't forget to put your absorbent layer underneath before you do this, like I did. Okay. There we go. Pretty good. Trying not to overlap. Remembering that there's not necessarily flowers on each edge, so that works. But I think I've got it pretty good there. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and put this on top. And then we're going to put this back on top. And we're going to go ahead and put our brick back on top. And then we are going to probably wait at least a week before I check these. As you could see, a lot of them were very fragile. So you don't want to be messing with them a lot and checking them constantly and picking on them and stuff. That also will introduce in more air and more light and start more of that fungal breakdown process. So just the better thing to do is just keep them covered and try not to mess with them. Even go like 2 weeks before you need to check them is fine. Actually, the longer the better, because you want them to be bone brittle dry before you use them, because of the moisture. You don't want any moisture in them, because what will happen when you take them out, if they're still moist, they're going to dry really strangely, and they could even start a molding process at that point. So you do want them dry when you take them out. So that is how to, gives you a little more overview again, and how to help ensure that you get more color in the flowers and even in the foliage that you dry. However, even if you do them and then they're already dry, like these guys here, they're already dry. You can also go ahead and paint them. So you would use a watercolor wash, and you would paint them with that. So that's another possibility. I tend to like to just go with whatever happened, and it's fun because you never know, you don't know what you're going to get. So for me, it's like a surprise, and then I work with what I've got. So next video, we're going to be making something. I'm going to show you some of the things I've made, and then making something with these pressed flowers. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.